Magandang araw po sa ating lahat. Good day to all of us. Ako po si Deborah Garcia and welcome to this series of lessons where you will learn not just the theories and form of the language but also the function and the usage. Today we are going to talk about illnesses and we are going to practice translating simple sentences. So if you're ready, grab your pen and paper and let us learn all about conversational Filipino. Alright, so before we go to the sentences that we want to translate today, let us go ahead and familiarize ourselves with these terminologies here. These are some of the common illnesses where we have the Tagalog translations. Most of the illnesses are in English words and we usually retain the terminology. Fever is not an illness though, but we always use the Tagalog term for it. And this one is not an illness, of course, it's the medicine, and we have the Tagalog translation for it as well. So, measles, we say tigdas. For flu, it's trangkaso. Cough, ubo. Colds, sipon. Asthma is hika. Sprain is pilay. Mumps is beke. And chickenpox is bulutong. We also say bulutong tubig. We add that word tubig. Tubig means water. Because when you have chickenpox, there's water inside, right? So we say bulutong tubig, or we can say bulutong. And then fever, though it's not an illness, but when someone has a fever, it's very common that we say lagnat. Lagnat. And then for medicine, we say gamot. So, for example, if we want a medicine for measles, then we would say, though there's no medicine for measles, right? There's a vaccine for it. Vaccine, by the way, I would like to add that. So, vaccine is bakuna. Vaccine is bakuna. So, for example, medicine for cough. Cough medicine. So, we say gamot. Sa, we use the preposition sa, so we say gamot sa ubo, gamot sa sipon, gamot sa hika, something like that. So we always say medicine for or gamot sa. Alright, so I got this picture here from the book that I am using, and there are simple sentences below them. I am just going to categorize them according to how complicated they are when you are translating them in Filipino. So these three sentences have this same sentence pattern. I put the translations for these illnesses. So measles is tigdas, flu is trangkaso, and cold is sipon, so that you don't have to flip through your copies there for the previous slide that I showed you. So sentence number 1, Gina has the measles. I don't know why they put the here, because if I'm just going to say this, I'm just going to say Gina has measles. Oh, I don't know, is the really important here? But we don't translate that in Tagalog, okay? But this part, Gina has measles. So, has, what is has or have? Again, has or have. It is may or mayroon, right? May and mayroon are the same. It's not has or have, because remember, we do not have the plural forms of this. The word, the auxiliary verb has. So in Filipino, we don't say has or have. So if has is may and has is an auxiliary verb, when we are going to translate this in Filipino, we start with the verb, right? So what's our verb here? Has. It's an auxiliary verb. So we are going to start with may. Our sentence should start with may, not with the subject. So we would say may. And then because in the original sentence, after the has, we have the object, we are going to put the object here after the verb has as well. So we would say may tigdas. We put tigdas right away instead of writing the subject. So we'd say may tigdas, and then we are going to introduce our subject, Gina. But we can't just say may tigdas Gina, because that's broken. When you are introducing a person, you might want to use the personal topic maker. Do you still remember? Si, the SI. So, may tigdas si Gina. So this one, the translation from Gina has measles. So we say may tigdas si Gina. Same with this one. So I think you can do these two now. Olivia has the flu. So it's the same sentence pattern. We are going to start with the auxiliary verb may. So we would say may trangkaso si Olivia. May trangkaso si Olivia. What if we are going to replace Olivia with a pronoun? So for example, ako. I have the flu. How will I going to translate this in Filipino? It's the same. I am still going to start with the may, has or have, right? May trangkaso ako. You don't say si ako, okay? That's an exception to the rule. Though ako is a person, you don't say may trangkaso si ako. You will just say may trangkaso ako. Okay, so should I write the translation? Okay, let's see. May trangkaso si Olivia. And same here, Van has the cold. Then you would say may sipon si Van. May sipon si Van. Okay, now let's take the 3 remaining sentences on the picture. So let's start with sentence number 4. It says, Carlos is allergic to flowers. We should identify, do we have a verb here? I mean main verb, because is a verb, but it's not the main verb, right? It's just a linking verb. So Carlos is allergic. What is allergic? What part of speech is allergic? It's an adjective, right? So allergic to flowers. Flowers is your object. So what pattern is this? Subject, verb, adjective. SVA. And if you can still remember the sentence pattern that we have, if we have a verb, a main verb, then usually, of course, it would come first. But this one, we have an adjective and we don't have a main verb. So we are going to start with the adjective. We never start with the subject, right? Carlos would never be the first when we translate it into conversational Filipino. We start with allergic. We don't have a Tagalog translation for allergic. We use allergic. And then flowers is bulaklak. Flowers is bulaklak. Plural, flowers, so we say mga bulaklak. This is how we translate flowers here, mga bulaklak. So, if we say we are going to start with the adjective, then we would say allergic. We'll put it here. Oh, allergic. We can say allergic to flowers. We can start with allergic to flowers. Remember, in the previous sentences, after the has, we put in the object immediately. We'll start with this one. Allergic to flowers. Allergic sa. To is a preposition, and I told you usually for Filipino language, we use one preposition, sa. So we say allergic sa mga bulaklak. Bulaklak. Allergic sa mga bulaklak si Carlos. We are going to introduce Carlos here. Allergic sa mga bulaklak si Carlos. Or, as I said, after allergic, you can immediately put your subject. So you can say allergic si Carlos. So this is another translation. So allergic si Carlos. And then, you can put this sa mga bulaklak. Okay? So, allergic sa mga bulaklak si Carlos or allergic si Carlos sa mga bulaklak. Okay, sentence number 5. It says, Abdul feels sick to his stomach. We could say this one is verb, right? But then this entire phrase here is when we translate this one in Tagalog, it's not stomach pain. It's not stomach ache, right? It feels sick to his stomach means Abdul is nauseous. Nauseous. So we don't, this phrase here do not exist in the Filipino translation because we do not say feels sick to his stomach when we mean nauseous. We use nauseous. So it means the translation for this one is nasusuka. Nasusuka. You're nauseous. So we are going to use the translation nasusuka or nauseous when we are going to translate this sentence in Tagalog. Nasusuka si Abdul. We say nasusuka. We are going to use the adjective first. Nauseous, right? So we are going to say nasusuka si Abdul. Or Abdul is nauseous. Okay, sentence number 6, and this is our last sentence. It says, Jiang has a sprained ankle. Sprained is pilay. Ankle is bukong-bukong, but we are not using that terminology in the Philippines. We just say paa. Paa is foot. And if we say feet, then mga paa. This one is just foot, right? Because it's singular, then we'd say paa. We'll use paa or foot instead of ankle because we don't really use the terminology bukong-bukong for the ankle. We are not very specific. So we are just going to say Jiang has a sprained foot or may pilay. We are going to start with the auxiliary verb has. So has is same with the first 3 sentences. We'd say may. May pilay. So may pilay sa paa si Jiang. This is our first translation. So what did we do? We put this one here, may, and then the remaining words there. So may pilay sa paa, has a sprained ankle. May pilay sa paa si Jiang. So we put Jiang in the last part of the sentence, or same with sentence number 4 about Carlos being allergic to flowers, right? So we can do allergic to flowers, Carlos, or we can also say allergic si Carlos to the flowers. So Carlos is allergic to flowers. It's the same pattern here. So we can start with this one, or we can say may pilay. We can still start with has a sprain. May pilay, we can say. And then we can insert our subject, si Jiang. May pilay si Jiang. And then we can put this one, sa paa. It doesn't matter. If I were you, for this to be easier, you choose the first translation. Same with the sentence about Carlos being allergic. So once you started here, then you go that way and then you insert the subject with a personal topic maker C. Because if you're going to do this translation, then you wouldn't know when to stop before you will insert the subject, right? So, but this one is also okay. May pilay si Jiang sa paa. Or, this one is better because this is easier. Then you would say, may pilay sa paa si Jiang. Now, if you are thinking about the 2 previous lessons that we had where we identify what is the focus of the sentence, would it be the subject or the doer of the action or the object, which is the receiver of the action, that rule is not really important in these kinds of sentences because, first of all, we do not have the main verb in the sentence. So we cannot really identify or we cannot really say that the subject is the doer of the action and the object is the receiver of the action, because there is no main verb. So there is no action being done here. So in these kinds of sentences, if you see this kind of sentences, so it means it doesn't matter if you would identify the focus, because as I said, there is no main verb. So don't make this very complicated. Translate it as it is. If you have an auxiliary verb, start with the auxiliary verb. If you have a linking verb like is, am, are, and then you have an adjective, start with the adjective. So that is all for today. I hope you learned something. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. And also for the previous series where I had 18 lessons, they are all available at Gobi Languages app. If you're using iPhone, please search Gobi Languages. And if you're not using iPhone, if you're using your Android or computer, please log in to www.gobilanguages.com. The previous lessons, all 18 lessons are in there, and I made some exercises for you to practice what you've learned from the video. So please don't forget to check that out. I will start uploading the lessons in the second series, like this series, to Gobi Languages as well. And then I am going to make some exercises so that you can always practice. It would help a lot if you practice so that you won't forget what you've learned here. See you again in the next lesson. Bye!